Hi there. In this video, we are going to cover three fintech infrastructure and payments crypto, including Ripple, Stellar, and Onyxcoin. If you're new to my session, I'll cover the Wyckoff stage of each of the projects, their potential price trend change, as well as key price levels. These are education content only, not financial advice. And the new dashboards to help you avoid FOMO and panic is now available on Substack. The handle is XLM. Check it out while it's still free. Now, let's dive into the XRP weekly chart. As previously, we talked about, basically it's entering an early accumulation stage. Okay. The good thing, or the positive side of Ripple as of this moment, is that it is still way higher than what October 10th tariff announcement day has tested. During that time, it has challenged the purple key level of 86 cents. It ended somewhere between the blue key level and the purple, so 70 cents to 86. So it's, I would say, prudent to assume if anything goes bad, that's the level where Ripple can get to. Okay? Of course, if it's something even worse, then we have to go back to the 2022-2024 accumulation cycle. For that period, it's a very long 2.5 years for Ripple compared to the other altcoins. So it lasted over there because of whatever reason you can think of, maybe the legal battle with the SEC and other matters. You see, basically, after it dropped into the accumulation cycle, it trended up for a while, and then it started a prolonged 1 year and 4 months, roughly, sideways trend before it launched to the 2024 year-end distribution cycle. So, as of this moment, even though it seems like Ripple is stabilizing, and looking at the volume, it has returned to a lower level, okay, from that initial drop in the beginning of January, okay, roughly around early Jan. We see that candlestick with a long wick, the bears hitting it very hard from the red key level of $2.30. And since then, we've got 5 weeks of decline, and now we're seemingly in a sideways trend. But that's not the case, because if you look at the bigger picture, it is actually still in the downtrend. When we get to the daily chart, we'll be able to see clearer what's actually happening. So, in short, we're still hoping to see a confirmation that the panic over stage has arrived. It may well be there already, just that we need to see something we call the automatic rally, where the bulls and bears are going to set a trading range top for the accumulation. So look at what happened over here. That's the automatic rally, and subsequently the price came back to challenge that light blue line over there. Let me enlarge this so you can see clearer. So that's the automatic rally. It came to challenge this. And then subsequently, with increasing volume, higher than average volume, the price continued to climb back to challenge the same light blue line multiple times before it range bound higher, okay, around the same blue line. Okay, so that's what we need to see as an indication that money is, or liquidity is, gradually coming back. It's not there yet. Those signs haven't shown up yet, okay? Now, let's get to the daily chart. Here, that's why I said Ripple is still in the downtrend earlier, because this box basically helps us track where Ripple is bouncing around, okay? I explained this in the early days when I first started these sessions. You can imagine this channel, this parallel channel, is an air hockey table, and the price of assets just basically bounce along 3 lines, okay? Of course, these two are very obvious, the boundaries, okay? And then eventually we've got a center line that cuts across the channel, but it doesn't always cut the box in half. Sometimes in certain assets, it may align to like maybe 50%, 60%, 70% of the channel, okay? Don't assume it's always at the center of the channel, okay? So that you see these kind of rejections right there, likewise here, okay? And then the support over here. So that's why 3 lines in the channel. Currently, Ripple, after last week's movement on the 14th, exactly 2 weeks ago, it climbed to challenge the 1.54 green key level just to get rejected and come back to retest the 1.35 yellow key level. Currently, it's staying slightly lower, but it has done this before during early March. So if it stabilizes over here, as long as it's still staying along the stronger half of the channel, okay, above the center line, there's still a chance for it to hit these dates, these windows. One of these dates, they are potential breakout confirmation dates, breaking outside of the downward channel, okay? Not meaning it will shoot up immediately. That's only one of the possibilities. The more important thing is that it confirms that the downtrend is over if it breaks outside of the ceiling and continues to trade at least sideways. So trading sideways is the other option. And of course, after a short while of sideways, it may go down again if the liquidity continues to shrink and people still consolidate towards the bigger leading cryptos. All right, so the March 30th and April 21st are pretty stretched target, okay? And indeed, before 20th of March, we said somewhere as we get closer to this day, we'll get an answer whether the price will go back to trade on the stronger half, okay? It did it during January, but then dropped back to the weaker half in Feb. Now in March, mid-March, it came up again. So as long as it doesn't break outside of the downward channel, we can assume these kind of fluctuations continue to happen. Not that we hope it happens that way, but that's the trend, okay? Nobody can do anything about it if the macro environment doesn't improve and people's sentiments aren't back to risk-on mode. All right. Next, Stellar. Weekly chart of Stellar. Stellar is similar to Ripple at the early accumulation stage as far as I can see, and its price is actually closer to the accumulation range during 2002 to 2004. Okay, it's actually around the trading range top, the blue key level of 15 cents 70. The volume has been staying low. So again, we just need the automatic rally to confirm Stellar has gone through the panic over stage. It may be there already, just that either it show us the automatic rally or the volume continues to stay low or even lower, even though it may edge down towards the light blue key level of 13 cents 80. That means we're getting closer and closer to the confirmation of panic over stage. Okay, that's the definitive confirmation, the AR. But if it continues to shrink in volume and the price doesn't really go crazily down, it's still comfortable to assume that the panic over stage is very near, if not already arrived. So you can see in 2022 July, somewhere between May all the way into September, actually, few months over here, it has been trading sideways and the volume stayed very low, okay, compared to the prior period. It was actually the lowest during that time, but it wasn't the lowest point of the accumulation. After that period, the final drop happened, but the volume gets even lower after that. So that's where the panic over stage arrived, and eventually there was the automatic rally. Subsequently, with increased volume higher than prior period average, comes the sign of strength. So we are trying to observe whether this will happen in a similar sense this cycle, and how quickly that would come, given that period in 2022 lasted for 4 months, and we are only about 2 months in over here, this sideways period. Okay, and the macro environment is basically much worse than that time. Daily chart, similar sense, but a little bit more encouraging is that Stellar has got to very close to the ceiling of the downtrend. So the downtrend that started July last year, it is the second time that it comes to challenge the ceiling. Okay, this was the first time. This is the second time, and it has been trading very narrow along the right below the 17 cents 20, the purple T level, and above this yellow dash line and intermediate support level set by the February 5th and 6th trading days, around 14 cents 70. Okay. So here we talk about these dates last time. The positive or stretch target, April 3rd, just in a few days. So if the price managed to come up to challenge or go above the purple key level again, like what it did 2 times just in the last 2 weeks, then there is the chance that we'll see it break outside of the downward channel within the next few days. If it still get rejected, then we have to wait for another 10 days. Of course, if it comes back down to the yellow, that's approaching the end of April. And there is another sign over here. We see higher lows, right? So if this uptrend isn't broken, if it continues to make higher lows, assuming it still get rejected from the purple line or the ceiling, and find support over here, between 3rd and 13th, there's a date over here, the 7th. Okay? Where the wedge is. So it can still break outside of the downward channel at this point. So 3 opportunities within 2 weeks' time. Okay? Now, let's move on to Onyxcoin. Onyxcoin, automatic rally has already arrived. Okay? It's a little bit ahead of the other 2 that we talked about. It seems it is accumulating above or way above the accumulation cycle of 2002 to 2024. Okay, you can say it's 1 key level above, because the previous one, we talked about the trading range top was about the light blue line in the case of Stellar, right? And the price currently is trading right above that particular line. For Onyxcoin, it is trading above the blue, but last time the trading range top was actually the green key level of 0.0029. So slightly better than Stellar. Still, the caveat is that the paper hands diamond hands test, it doesn't care where the current level is. If the whales have a reason, or they find out the weak sentiments in Onyxcoin, they can shake the price down. And we have all these references, okay? The yellow, the orange, and the red key level. 0.007 was the low point back in 2022, 24, that long, prolonged ice age period of accumulation. Okay? it doesn't change the fact that we still have to see a sign of strength to come in, meaning higher than average volume over here compared to past period. Price return to retest the previous trading range top. Okay, and then it can still have more tests. Sometimes, in certain charts, you can see that retracement isn't that deep. It retraced to somewhere halfway, and then it already starts to go to the next distribution. So that's another way it can happen. But like I said before in many sessions, the whales will look at a lot of things to see whether there are sufficient news in order to make people comfortable and confident, or even overconfident to FOMO in. Okay, look at this point, November 2024, climbed for 5 weeks, stabilized for another 5, then 2 weeks of rocket launch, just 2 weeks, not for long. Okay, that's 10 weeks in total, 2.5 months. If the whales, when they look at the calendar, there are sufficient good news to sell that money is coming back, just 2.5 months is sufficient for them to push the price to that level. And then obviously they're going to, exit at these levels. You see those long wicks from the top. Okay, if people are FOMOing in and we see these kind of things, it's certainly profit taking, and by pretty large amount or by pretty big entity in order to create this kind of volume. All right, so that's how it looks like if the next distribution cycle comes back. We have to be very cautious. It may be very short-lived in certain situation. Of course, Bitcoin has performed very well this cycle, but if you look at XCN right here, okay, it's people bought the dip, and then the price just gets lower and lower and lower. Now, let's get to the daily chart. Volume has spiked a little a few days back. Okay, some people may be front running certain economic data or whatever situation they predict, like a war may be dying down sooner than expected. A lot of speculations are flying around. Okay, but those are just speculations. Nobody know exactly when would those events finish. But economic events, we see a lot lining up from the US, okay, economic data, as well as the new Fed chair coming in May. So I would assume when we get closer to May, more speculative behavior will front run and causing even higher fluctuations or volatility, all right, going forward. Because we have been in a very quiet and narrow range since early February, okay, just in this narrow range between this yellow dash line of 0.0046 all the way to 0.0063. Okay, since the price dropped on Jan 30th, all February and March, XCN has been within this range. The volume hasn't done much. The best attempt on the 15th, we see a long way, the bears hitting it back. Okay, the volume here isn't just positive, it's also including these negative, striking the price back below the purple key level. Okay, now we talk about this as well, these dates, and exactly just on Thursday, okay, we haven't tagged this date, but you can see where the channel ceiling crosses the blue key level of 0.0051. That's exactly 26th of March, which the price shot outside of the previous downtrend channel that I've drawn. We talked about this, whether it is really a downtrend being developed. So we want to track that. Or is it just a sideways trend between the yellow dashed line and the purple? And we get the confirmation on the day we talk about. Okay, it's basically still a sideways trend. However, if we want to continue to measure this, there's a way. So we slightly adjust those box. Okay, given the price climb has been heavily rejected the next day. Okay, even though the volume has been dropping, it's still about 80-90% of the day that the price climbed. So if it is a more gradual trend than we originally charted, we can adjust this channel. Okay, it is less steep of a slope compared to the original one. Okay, so it is still edging towards a lower level. So let's adjust these boxes or these tags. Here it's pointing into 9th of April. And then this one, the 3rd of April. Meaning, by those time, if you believe or if you suggest this is going for a downtrend, we'll get a confirmation on these 2 dates. Okay, whether it is still sideways or is it going to break the yellow dashed line and come to challenge the light blue key level like what it did back in December and early January last year. Okay, or just at the year end, 31st December, 0.004. That's the level we're talking about if the downtrend continues. Okay, but we'll get confirmation before it touches that particular line, unless some of these economic data that comes out shock the market and people continue to flee towards the bigger crypto or safer assets, then it can drop to the blue line, the light blue line, 0.004, earlier than expected. Okay, there's another date here where the box crosses the light blue line, but the price is still above this line. We don't have to touch upon that date yet. We can talk about it next session. If you're interested to access these sessions 2 days earlier, like the existing members, join them now. Remember, the dashboards that avoid FOMO and panic, helping you sensing where the market is now on Substack with the handle XLM. Go check it out while it's still free. See you in the next video. Thank you.